one question you asked Governor Lowe led to a reference by him to making the pie bigger, the economic pie. In what you heard today, is there any evidence that either the Reserve Bank or the Albanese government are capable of making the pie bigger? Because, as you and I have said, if the population increases and the economic pie stays the same size, then we're all poorer as Australians.
That's exactly right, Alan. Look, in fairness to the governor, he doesn't have a lot of power to make that pie bigger, so to speak. He only has the one lever, controlling interest rates, and that really is just about how much money's floating around. And inflation happens when there is too much money chasing too few goods. So if we're not producing enough, we're not productive enough, and we keep the same money supply, you're going to get inflation. The value of your dollar will fall. Conversely, if we just increase the money supply, which we have, government spending the last few years, and don't produce more, we'll have the same result. But I know the governor today couldn't be too critical of the government. That's not his role. But he made it very clear that it would be helpful for him. It would help interest rates to stay lower than they would otherwise have to be if we had a government focused on increasing our productivity, increasing the pie, as you say, helping the economy gain strength.
But
and we once had governments who did that by removing red tape, removing restrictions, and now we have a government that shuts down coal mines, wants to effectively nationalise the gas industry and re-regulate labour markets. Well, that's only going to lead to one outcome, and it's called the 1970s, where we had crushing inflation. It eventually required 18% interest rates to get it under control, and I don't think anyone wants to go back there.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got also government spending, which is out of control as well. You raised the issue to the Reserve Bank Governor that in the past year, to take that point up that you've just made, the Albanese government has re-regulated labour and now energy markets. And you asked Governor Lowe, quote, if removing restrictions on the economy helps subdue inflation, wouldn't reintroducing restrictions in these very important markets add to inflationary pressure? How did he handle that?
Well, as I said, it made him a little bit uncomfortable because he's up for reappointment later this year, Alan, and like all of us, he probably wants to keep his job. So going hard and criticising the government's probably not the best way to help with that endeavour for him, as the government is the one who appoints him, so it allows him to keep his job or not.
But he said he didn't want to be
sheepish, but he did agree with that general principle.
Yeah, but I mean,
he did agree with the general principle that re-regulating, putting more restrictions on is going to cause more inflation.
See, what I don't understand, he said he didn't want, and not on more than one occasion, he said he didn't want to be drawn into the specifics of IR legislation. But firstly, this stuff was never raised during the election, and now there are wholesale changes. I mean, multi-employer bargaining, how does that affect the economy? The bloke, if he's going to be setting interest rates, he has to know something about the impact these changes are having on the economy. But as you say, he's up for renewal and he doesn't want to attack the government.
Well, look, it is an unfortunate, as I said, I'm not going to go, I think the greater villain here is the government and their introduction of more red tape, unrestricted government spending, and the continuing of throwing the governor under the bank for their own failings. That's the major villain in this piece. But Dr. Lowe and lots of other of our fearless or once fearless bureaucrats here in Canberra are indicative of a unfortunate spread of mediocrity where there's not the same strength that I've found in previous generations of public servants to forcefully put an opinion, to forcefully put their views. We had great men. Ed Shan was one who wrote a piece in the Financial Review this week. Gary Banks, who used to head up the Productivity Commission. Bernie Fraser, even in his own way. They weren't shrinking violets. They were willing to have the courage to put their views out there and